As you give this morning, you may notice that a Cuba team came back last month from a missions trip down in Cuba, and that's the second team that we've sent down in as many years. And you're about to see a short video of some of the testimonies as well as some of the things that that team has done down there in Cuba. And if you know of people who went on the trip but aren't on that video, ask them, what did God do? What did you see? Tell me more about this. So check out the video as you give this morning.
We are back from Bayamo, the lovely island of Cuba. And Bayamo wasn't on my bucket list. It really wasn't, to be honest. Never even had heard of Bayamo. But I can tell you that having gone to Bayamo, I got to go back to Bayamo. And I might get a little emotional as I think about what happened there, because as Mary mentioned, I think you'll see her video, I was changed. I had some things that God had to teach me. And he taught me a lot of good lessons, the lessons of contentment, the lessons of satisfaction, the lessons of dependence on him for provision. These people, you know, our brothers and sisters there, they were suffering. They really had want every day. That was the norm. Poverty was the norm. And for us here in the United States, we have so much, and we're privileged. And to go there and to interact with people who are able to worship God despite, you know, the hardship and the suffering, that was really a life-changing moment for me. And so I just have to say, if you haven't gone on a mission trip, go. We worked our rear ends off and worked very hard every day, but the joy that we got from coming close to God in that way and serving in that way was really something I'll never forget. So with that, I just say, come join us on the next trip. I'll be on the next one, hopefully, and God bless the people of Bayamo.
Pastor Kevin had asked what was one of the things that stuck out with us most. I think one of those things would be the mountain church that we went to visit. We had to go, you know, travel. I mean, it was a long distance, walking up over places that weren't really what you would call everyday traveling. It was hard sometimes, and I was thinking to myself on the way there that this is probably, you know, the church might be attended maybe once, twice maybe during the week, but I guess, and probably not very many people, but according to what the pastor said, there's like 75 people who come to visit that church 3 times a week, and that was quite amazing. And when we got there, there was we met the pastor and his wife, and they sang songs. We got to interact with them. That was wonderful. One of the maybe humorous parts of visiting was our bus driver. He was lucky we all came back alive, but that was another story altogether. It was just amazing to me. The transportation was mainly, probably 75% consisted of horse and carriage and bicycles, and they all rode in the street. Everyone rode in the street, and that was kind of you know, traveling behind them with that bus driver. The speed he was traveling, you know, you would have to hold your breath a lot of times, you know, and pray hard. You had to pray hard. But it was amazing. I loved going there. I loved the people. I loved working alongside them. The church service was amazing. The people who went on this Cuba trip, it was wonderful. I thank God for the blessing of being able to go.
When I think about Cuba and the chance that we all had, or our great group that we had to go to Cuba, I really think about what I intended to do when I got there was really to work hard, help God's people, and be able to just model what it's like to be a Christian. I did all that. I was very happy to do that. But I got to do so much more and to really enjoy myself so much more and watch the love of God in so many people. I got to see what God was doing on the mountaintops. So that was incredible. But also while I was there, God worked with me on a little lesson. So I just want to share quickly about what God talked to me about when I was there. So I was without my luggage for about almost 3 days. And I'm a person who's used to kind of being in control, taking care of myself. I've taken care of myself for a long time. But here I found myself in a situation where I really couldn't. You know, there was really no way for me to take care of myself. So God worked with me on letting go and giving in. And through all of that, God's people, actually God, through his people, took care of everything that I needed, from a toothbrush to underwear to 6 lovely Cuban outfits that I almost got to wear, but then my suitcase came. But really, the whole experience was incredible. I would go again tomorrow if I had the chance. So, Pastor Cal, if you're going to do it next year, let me know. Thank you.
Trip. 30 years old, married with kids. The most amazing part about the trip for me was I had no expectations. I didn't know what to expect. You hear about all these different things where you interact with the people, you physically build things, you learn things, you see God's grace and amazing, just the joy that he can portray through people. And we always think about we go to do things for other people. I think the most amazing thing about this trip was what Cuba did for us. We physically helped them build a physical place of worship, but what was most amazing was their love and gratitude and contentment and humbleness truly humbled me. If I had to sum up the whole trip, it would be contentment and humbleness that I realized I did not have. And through this trip and through the people we were with and the people we were working with, we learned all this. But even more amazingly is I actually got to take this trip with my dad, and it was his first missions trip as well. What really hit me on this trip, and excuse me if I get a little emotional here, what really hit me on this trip was I grew up in a Christian home, always admiring my mom for everything that she taught me, being a homeschool teacher and teaching me everything, but I always kind of put my dad on the back burner, and God showed me on this trip that I had been misjudging my father for 15 plus years, and I had to ask God for forgiveness for that, and I had to ask my dad for forgiveness for that. But it also showed me how ungrateful that I've been, and it showed me how grateful I need to truly be. And it's amazing that we got to take this trip at Thanksgiving, at this time of year or just before. And, Thanksgiving shouldn't be one day. It should be every day. And the things that we got to experience while we were there, the hardships, the joy that these people have even in their time of hardship was absolutely amazing. If somebody said, who do you want to be like? I'd be like, I want to be like a Cuban. Now, I want to be like someone who knows that they have nothing, yet they have everything. And I want to try and teach anybody that is willing to listen to that, as well as my personal family. And I look forward to hopefully many more mission trips where I can help, again, grow God's kingdom, but to see what God can do, not only in my life, but in everybody around us. It was truly an amazing experience, and if you've never been on a trip, I highly recommend you go, but go with an open mind. And go seeking what God will teach you, not having an expectation that you have to achieve something. Just let God flow through you and really experience what he can do if you really open up your heart and your mind to what he can do. Thank you.
Hey, Auburn Hills Christian. I just wanted to say thank you so much for sending your team to work with us. We worked so hard this week, everybody, tying rebar, mixing concrete all day today in the hot sun. And we were able to pour this section of the roof behind us. And I just want to thank you for all of your help, everything that you've given to missions. We were able to pour the roof over the pastor's study. And the roof that we poured is going to last for hundreds of years. I just want to thank you for your investment in missions and for sending this team. God bless you guys.
Great, well, thank you. Wonderful. Thank you, Pastor Kevin, for helping to put that together. I think we should have the whole team just stand up, and we need to acknowledge you. Turn around so people can see you. We appreciate these men and women and the work that they did. And this, as Pastor Kevin said, was our second team. And again, another great team, did a great job, construction work and in ministry. So I appreciate each one of them. And as I said, and as you know, it is a construction trip. And if you could tell from the pictures, it's a large church building that we've been working on, concrete and steel. It's a growing congregation. But the thing is, that pastor that we're working with, he's a pastor of pastors, so he exerts great influence in the region. So the building is not only being used for the local church, but it also is being used for regional pastors' conferences and concerts. It'll be open for all of those kinds of activities and events. So we're so grateful for your continued giving so that we can do these kinds of things. And of course, that people are always willing to go on these trips and come alongside these works. And God is doing a great work in Cuba. We're talking a nation which called itself atheist. When Fidel Castro came to power, he told the people that God was dead, God was done, there was no other God in Cuba except the government. That from that point on, the people would call on the government to meet their needs. They would resource them. Well, I guess Castro never consulted with God, or God missed that meeting, because the Holy Spirit has been working on that island. And to give you an example, in 1990, there were 89 Assemblies of God house churches. We can only account for the Assemblies of God churches. There were other ministries and fellowships and denominations there. But in 1990, there were 89 Assemblies of God churches. Today, there are over 10,000 house churches in Cuba. Somebody to get a little bit excited. And those house churches grow and become the kind of congregation that we were working with it's been like now almost a month and a half ago. Anyway, while we were there, we were able to interact, as you heard, with 2 house church pastors and their families. Very moving stories of God's faithfulness. House church number 1, they meet on a mountainside. People have to walk up the mountain. And as Sophia said, 3 services out of the week, 2 of those services at night. There are no lights on that mountain road, and yet they go there and they meet there. Small pavilion, they average some 75 people every week. And then that church has birthed 5 cell churches. And those cell churches meet in houses, and they have about 15 to 20 people in each one of those cell churches. Well, they have an opportunity to purchase property at the base of the mountain. The property includes a building that would be used as a church. There's a house that would be used as a parsonage. The property also has coffee bean plants so that they can be harvested, and the church, if they could get that land and property, could become more self-supporting. And there's also yucca crops that can be harvested on that property as well. So to get a church building, a parsonage, and fields to be harvested, the purchase price is $4,000. Somebody just said, wow, that's good. House church number 2, and they meet in the pastor's living room. When we were there, about 15 of us, we thought we were filling the room, okay? We were kind of crowded with just 15. That morning, he had 51 people in that room. He has a small piece of land that's just adjacent to that room. So if he breaks through the wall and builds, he'll be able, he says, to have 100 people in a service. The construction cost for that is $2,000. So $6,000 will provide these 2 growing house churches with buildings. As a team, we agreed that AACC can easily handle that need. And that said, the Cuba missions team has taken the lead, and as a team, we've already contributed $2,100 toward that $6,000 goal. And then some of our team members have been asked questions by different people in their jobs and their community. And once they talk about what God is doing there, these individuals have sent donations toward the church for that work. So from that, $800 has come in. So now we have received to date $2,900 toward that $6,000 goal. That leaves only $3,100, and I think that we can take care of that. I think we can take care of that. So each year at Christmas Eve, we receive a love offering, and we invest in a ministry outside of ourselves. And we thought that this year that would be a great ministry in which to invest. To receive our Christmas Eve love offering and give that to these 2 house church works in Cuba. Think about it, friends. This Christmas, we get to give 2 churches buildings in which to meet in. I think that's a wonderful gift to give, all right? So I'm asking you to pray, seek the Lord, see what he would have you do, and then we'll receive those offerings on Christmas Eve. And when you look in your bulletin, you'll see that the offerings that are received at the kids' musical this weekend, which is Friday and Saturday, that will also be going in that direction. Of course, you can give throughout the month of December, just designated Cuba Church Plant. You can do that when the offering plate comes, or you can do that online as well. So keep that in mind.